080179 today.
This year, many of us will have to make the tough decision on what to cut back on and what's essential as we prepare for an uncertain future. In these troubled times, one of the most important things your family can have is good health. Some of the contributors to poor health are parasites, viruses, toxins, and heavy metals. It's a documented fact. 80% of all Americans and 85% of people around the world suffer from internal parasites and parasitic infection. Now, you can fight internal parasites, heavy metals, and high cholesterol naturally and safely by mixing fossilized phytoplankton powder, also known as FPP, with your favorite beverage once a day. FPP is now available to you from freshwaterorganics.com. A 2-month supply starts at just $17. FPP is so affordable you can't afford to do without. Visit freshwaterorganics.com or call them toll free at 888-949-3570. That's 888-949-3570.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN, great talk radio starts here.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is America Now, and I'm Barb Adams along with Scott Stevens, and we are speaking with George Year from Urban Survival and Cliff High of Half Past Human. And I believe we left it off with a wedding interrupted.
Yeah, some imagery that Cliff had shared with George, and he kicked that to his subscribers, and with his daily update, which is part of my morning coffee routine. And we want to welcome George and Cliff back to the show.
Yeah, the wedding was an interesting situation. It's an archetype as well. We frequently see weddings, especially at tribal sort of crowd-level descriptors, and when we saw that appear, especially the way that it arrived in what we call the immediacy data, we've got all of our data sliced and diced, and how soon it's going to pop off and cause us problems and so forth. And so when it showed up in the immediacy data, I thought, danger, Will Robinson, better send out an alert. So I sent out an alert to all of my subscribers saying, hey, guys, earthquake pending. And we'd, of course, now discussed this about 5 or 6 months before in one of our previous series when it first started showing up in the longer-term data. And that's just the way these things work. We got the archetype of the interrupted wedding and a large quake and so on. It percolates over time, and then eventually it reached the immediacy data, which usually has a value of about 3 days out to maximally about 3 weeks, but usually much closer to the 3 days. And so I think it was like on a Thursday or something that I went out and said, George, better tell everybody we've got a big earthquake coming and lash stuff down. Now, the way it works, we didn't know where it was really going to pop off.
You had some latitude restrictors, right? North and south, 3242 or 3237, something like that?
And that's so vague as to really be relatively useless.
Well, it's not entirely useless. I left Southern California, where I was in 2005, because we were expecting a major earthquake to occur at about 34 degrees north. And as it turns out, it was not in Burbank, which happens to sit on 34 degrees north, which is where I was living at the time, on a consulting situation. Instead, it was in Pakistan, and that happened to be 34 north. And what was it, 180,000 people, or just some horrific number, followed by brutal winter cold and so on and so forth. And frankly,
they were homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's easy for Cliff to say, "Oh, that's just data," and I'm going, "Well, hell, how much closer do you need to be to the latitude?"
Well, when you're making a forecast, at least as a weatherman.
The X and the Y business. Let's get latitude and longitude, and then we've got something.
Yeah. But like I say, statistically, it's above chance.
Yes,
Yeah, the Z-axis would be nice, too, but we'll take 2. But I guess the other thing is time. And you have said over and over and over again, we can see the event. It's just putting it on the bloody timeline is an incredible challenge.
It's difficult. Now, bear in mind, this is all done basically with an arbitrary scale of my own devising, as is the emotional quantifiers and quantifiers, because fundamentally what I do is I take the day we start doing our data gathering, and then I have an emotional time frame for each of the word sets that we pick up say whether it's an immediacy, a short-term, or a long-term sort of an impact. And you can think, for instance, of slang as having an immediacy, a much more jarring impact on your senses, as opposed to legal language, which is way out and may still have a jarring impact on your senses if you're sued, but usually it's some distance away before there's any actual harm to you. Whereas slang could be related to being robbed. They just jacked my car. That sort of thing. So putting the time frame on is difficult, yes.
There's a lot of things in this latest ALTA run, Asymmetric Language Trend Analysis, that are fascinating, and one of the huge entities is Terra. That's one that I hold dear to my heart.
And mine too.
And,
yes. In fact, it's underneath all of our feet constantly, so we should always be very much aware of it. Yeah.
And one of the events that I know, Barb, before I got involved with Barb, my plan was to move to Hawaii and take advantage of the real estate crash, use precious metals to scoop up a nice little 10-acre plot at about 4,000 or 5,000 feet on the Kona side of the Big Island and put as much distance between me and the mainland when the shit goes down. And that was literally my plan. And Barb was like,
not a good idea.
Yeah, we've got coastal and wave issues. Do you really want to be out in the middle of the ocean? And I'm like, well...
Now, granted, I had not gone to your sites. Honestly, I hadn't known about them till I met Scott and started reading these. But I, for a very long time, have been seeing a lot of these events, if you will, in my own way. And what amazes me is when I read your printouts, it matches up with so much of what I have been seeing coming since I was a small child. And I told Scott, if you go out there, you're sitting on top of a volcano in the middle of an ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, it's even much worse than that. I mean, the large. Yeah. No, seriously, because you have to look at things in hyperdimensional reality, and that is that at 19.4744 degrees is the vent hole in the strategic point, which is what is fueling the volcanoes currently on the Big Island, and they have a tendency to drift, as you've noticed.
Yes,
over time. There's nothing to say that those drifts are going to be gradual, and if we're expecting, as we think we are, and in fact as we're all noticing in our experience now, vast quantities of changes that are certainly pan-solar system, then these hyperdimensional points will be very key in the future, and I don't know that one wants to live on one of them.
No.
I don't think so.
What makes 19.5 degrees special is if you take a circle and inscribe an equilateral triangle inside that circle, those two bottom points of that triangle intersect the circle at 19.47 degrees. On the planet Jupiter, that is exactly where you'll find the Great Red Spot.
And currently, by the way, let's note that Great Red Spot is shrinking. And it has been over the last couple of years, and if the same effects are to be experienced here, then we can expect there will be some impact on Hawaii.
And also shrinking are the magnetosphere of the Earth, as is the heliosphere of the sun.
Yeah, and I personally believe it's because of magnetics at the what's known as the magnetic ribbon that is the ecliptic, or you can think of it as the equatorial plane of the Milky Way galaxy, which just so happens to be takes us 20 years in our solar system to cross that plane, and we're into it now a number of years, and it's starting to sort of squeeze on us.
Yes, one of the other things that Barb has been talking to me about over the last couple of years is changes in animal and human behavior as we cross this hot spot in the galactic equator.
And it's been showing up now. I've been seeing
in your reads, in your ALTA reports.
Oh, we've had that for years. What we kept calling the sun disease, but it's really bigger than that. It's probably the intergalactic disease or whatever. It's the unknown energies from space that are affecting us all. There was this philosopher fellow Gurdjieff who called it the Solilunius.
I like that.
Solilunius. That's a new word for me. But this is, as you had mentioned, I think it was in your part 4, that the powers that be obviously are aware of the predicament that this planet and indeed solar system is in, whether that information has been gathered from ancient sources or has been presented them from off-world